So imagine that on your last day on earth, you get to shake hands with who you could have become. Like that's the ultimate hell. And so how do you close the gap between who that individual could be and who you are today is a direct reflection of your learning. For me, I think one of the key cornerstone habits that I've maintained is, humans are really unique in that we don't finish developing in the womb. For the first 5-6 years, our brain still has a ton of neuroplasticity and it's still very much developing. And if we're thinking of ourselves like a computer, our hardware is still being very much created in real time. So the experiences that you have, the relationships you have with your parents, the software that you are installing on your hard drive. And so that is the computer, when you're 5, 6, for many people say it's into your 20s and your 30s where your hardware and software is finally complete. And so being mindful of, hey, how am I rewired? Do I need a software update? What is serving me and what's not? And in many ways, your own psychology, Callum, is very much serving you, but in many ways, it might be holding you back. And so, meeting with therapists, meeting with coaches, I have a multitude of them, and analyzing like, in what ways is this serving me, and in what ways is this holding me back? In what ways am I being over conservative because I'm chasing that solid ground that I didn't have as a kid, right? Am I? And I want to commend you. You've made a lot of very brave decisions to jump off and do things on your own. Now at 25, those are things that, quite frankly, I wouldn't have had the courage to do at 25 because I was chasing the safe route. Let me go work at Microsoft because no matter what, I'll have that on my resume. And so that'll be a good parachute to fall back on. I would have never had the courage to go jump off and do things on my own. And so maybe that was the right call, or maybe that was just my own psychology when I was younger, sort of rearing its ugly head as I got older. And that's really where you need to analyze. Am I making a decision based on logic, or am I making it based on emotion? And there's an old saying, your mouth is 3 inches below your nose, but you need someone else to tell you if you have bad breath. And so having an outside counsel, people that you can trust, is really important to make sure that you're not making decisions based on old patterns, but rather making decisions that are the best for the Callum of the future.
You know what's interesting, and it's something that I tell myself, which is, I think especially over the long term, I think very few things happen by accident. Like, and the reason I say that is in support of what you said, which is like, there's a reason you're getting the outcomes that you're getting, good and bad.
Totally.
And a lot of the time, it does go back to just that inner wiring, the things that you're not even cognizant of how you act and how you respond in certain situations, but it's dictating your outcomes. And so I think that that level of introspection, the therapy, sometimes it's interesting how you learn things about yourself. I think that's actually an important thing as well, is I realized even with myself, like I learned through conversation.
Yeah.
So it was about like, even when I went the therapy route, it wasn't so much what she was saying. It was just the act of talking about something, and like that two-way street.
Totally.
It was helping me pick things up and put the patterns and put things together, stitch everything together. I'm curious for you, like, as you've, I always love the quote or the phrase that like, what got you from A to B won't get you from B to C. You have to constantly reinvent if you want to keep ascending and excelling. What habits, behaviors in your life have allowed you to reinvent yourself?
Yeah. I think it's phenomenal that you've learned that the way you learn is through conversation. I think that that's actually one of the critical skills that people need to understand about themselves, is that everyone's hardware and software is wired differently in terms of the patterns to learning. And I think step one is learning how you learn. So if you can learn how you learn, whether that's through conversation, my wife, she learns through journaling. So she learns through writing. I know some people are auditory. They need to listen through audiobooks. I know other people are very visual and like they like to learn via YouTube and courses. Understanding how you learn is really critical. And I would say from a habit of how do you continuously level up? If you can get really good, if you can learn how you can learn anything. And I would say where you are and between where you are and where you want to be is simply a function of the skills gap. You could become exactly who you need to become if you were able to ascertain all of the skills you needed in order to close that gap. One of my favorite quotes, Callum, is my favorite definition of hell is on your last day on earth, the person you became meets the person you could have become.
Mm.
So imagine that on your last day on earth, you get to shake hands with who you could have become. Like that's the ultimate hell.
Mm.
And so, how do you close the gap between who that individual could be and who you are today is a direct reflection of your learning. For me, I think one of the key cornerstone habits that I've maintained is my love for reading. I developed that from my dad. We used to go to libraries as a kid. And to this day, I start every morning with a cup of coffee and a book. And I make sure that, to me, I treat books like prescription drugs, AKA, what is my ailment today? What am I trying to learn today? What are the problems that I'm dealing with today? And the great thing is that we've had hundreds of years of publications. None of our problems are unique. Most likely, there's someone out there that's written a book that'll at least be directionally accurate to give you a starting point of how to solve that problem. So if I'm dealing with a psychology issue, or if I'm dealing with a relationship issue, or I'm dealing with a hiring issue, there's a book out there that will at least point me in the right direction to make sure that I'm not spinning circles. So one of my key cornerstone habits is reading. The next one is planning. I keep my journal with me almost every single day. To me, I maintain a quarterly goal that breaks down into a weekly goal, that breaks down into the 3 things I need to accomplish that particular day. So my quarterly goal is aligned to my North Star. My weekly goal is aligned to how do I make progress on my quarterly goal. And then my day, I'm trying to just chip away, even 20, 30 minutes per day. Massive. I've built 6-figure businesses with 20 minutes a day. So if you can just show up every single day, and planning is a big function of that, I think you can make massive progress. And then the last one is, I think, exercise. I think it's super important that you are maintaining a fit body. You know, we live in New York, so you don't really drive much, but most people, they replace their car every 3 to 4 years. You get one body for the rest of your life. So if you had a car, how well would you treat it if you knew that this is the only car you get for the rest of your life? You'd probably treat it a lot better than the way we're all treating ours today.
Yeah.
Probably use the most premium fuels, most premium oils, recognizing like, look, this things might break down at 60 or 70 or 80. And so making sure you're showing up and exercising. And that includes stretching and yoga, because that's often what stiffens up the most as we enter the 40s and 50s. So I think those are the big 3, just figuring out how are you learning and making sure you're doubling down, making sure you're planning and being proactive with your day. And then lastly is making sure that exercise, because I think health is the foundation for wealth. And I think those 2 are the foundation for happiness.